Struggling to stay consistent is what keeps most people stuck. Why? Because motivation fades, but consistency drives results. What you need is a strategy, not just willpower. Learn how to train your mind, build habits, and create routines that make consistency automatic, even when you don't feel like it. In a few moments, I will teach you how to force consistency, why it matters, what holds you back, and how to build habits that make it automatic. 1. You were not born to hesitate. You were not born to remain in place, but to rise, to evolve, and to move forward. Life does not pause for hesitation. Every day spent in stillness is a silent surrender to time, that invisible thief that steals without asking and never gives back. You don't need alarms, apps, or slogans to remind you of the truth you already carry within. You are meant for more. Somewhere in you, there is a pulse that beats not just to survive, but to achieve, to rise higher than you were yesterday. But there is a cunning voice, hesitation, that feeds you illusions. It says tomorrow will feel easier, that you can rest a little longer, that the path can wait. And if you listen too long, tomorrow never comes, and you find yourself haunted by the weight of untouched potential. Those who have changed the world, who have etched their names into the memory of time, shared one simple truth. They started. They began not with certainty, but with courage. They didn't wait for clarity or ideal circumstances. They acted while others debated. They moved forward through doubt, through fear, and through resistance. You might believe you are not yet prepared, that there is something more you need before you can begin. But readiness is a mirage. It keeps you waiting, promising that one day the stars will align. But they rarely do. The stars don't need to align when you have the fire inside. It is movement, not musing, that turns dreams into achievements. It is consistent effort, not occasional intensity, that carves strength into your bones. So why not begin? Not with a grand gesture or flawless execution, but with something small and deliberate. Wake before the noise of the world creeps in. Work while others postpone. Build while others rest on comfort. One disciplined action today leads to another tomorrow, and soon you are walking a path few dare to take. A year from now, you could stand in the skin of the person you now only dream of becoming, and it would all start with the courage to simply begin. There is power in motion. Once you begin, you gather momentum. The habits form. The excuses fade. You realize that the mountain is not meant to intimidate, but to elevate. Every moment you invest in growth becomes a brick in the foundation of your future self, and that version of you is waiting, stronger, sharper, more fulfilled. Not perfect, but forged in the fire of discipline and choice. So look around. Ask yourself if staying where you are is truly safer than stepping forward. Comfort may be warm, but it is also a cage. It wraps you in soft chains and calls it rest. But you were never made for a padded life. You were made to stretch, to sweat, to rise again after the fall. Don't let fear of failing keep you from beginning. The only true failure is never trying. You were born to advance. And if you begin today in the quiet of this very moment, the tide begins to turn. The course shifts. The future reshapes itself around your decision. So stand up, step forward. Don't wait, because the clock is ticking and your future is waiting for you to meet it halfway. 2. When you don't feel like it. There will be mornings when every muscle in your body protests. When your bed seems more welcoming than the day ahead, and your mind whispers 1,000 reasons to delay. There will be evenings when your ambition wavers, when the fire that once blazed within you seems reduced to mere embers. Doubt creeps in quietly then, asking, is any of this really worth it? But it is in these exact moments, when ease seduces and struggle persists, that greatness begins to take form. Not in fanfare, not in triumph, but in quiet perseverance. Because consistency does not thrive on inspiration. It is not born from motivation that comes and goes like the wind. No, consistency is built in defiance of resistance. It grows in the face of exhaustion, fear, and frustration. A man who only moves when he feels like it is no more dependable than chance itself. He is led not by principle but by whim, and a life built on whim crumbles at the first gust of hardship. But the one who acts regardless of feeling, who shows up again and again without waiting for the perfect mood, lays the bricks of a solid foundation, a life led by discipline, not emotion. Consider the farmer. He doesn't plant by inspiration, he plants by season. The soil doesn't care if he feels ready. The crops won't grow if he delays. The season comes and he must act. So must you. The time is now. Whether your soul feels ignited or indifferent, you must act in season. You must create, build, learn, and push. That is how harvests are earned. Picture yourself arriving at your desk or gym or studio while still carrying fatigue from yesterday. The doubts haven't disappeared, the inspiration hasn't arrived, and yet you begin. You review the notes, you send the email, you take the next step, you force your limbs into motion, not because you feel like it, but because it is required. And in that moment, a quiet power returns. You hear the echo within, I control me. That is the essence of true strength. Not domination over others, but mastery over self. And no, discipline isn't reserved for the elite, for the superhuman, or the born resilient. It belongs to anyone who is willing, anyone who decides that their future deserves more loyalty than their feelings. It belongs to the man who refuses to let a sleepy morning rewrite his plan, to the woman who laces her shoes even when her heart isn't in it, to the soul who values legacy over laziness. Do you believe discipline is only for the strong? It is not. It is for the committed, for the ones who understand that feelings are fleeting, but actions echo. You are not a slave to your moods unless you choose to be. Will you let fatigue write your story? Will you hand over the pen to doubt, to apathy, to comfort, or will you take it back and write something worthy? Every small act of showing up, every time you push through instead of giving in, you are chiseling away at the future you dream of. The breakthrough is not in the grand gesture, but in the choice made 100 times in silence. And it is not ease that defines champions, but endurance. Let your legacy be born not from fleeting moments of enthusiasm, but from relentless devotion to what must be done. Because in the end, greatness is not decided by how you felt, it is measured by what you did. 3. Set the pace of your life. Life will move you if you do not move it first. That is not a warning, it is a certainty. If you stand still, if you drift without intention, you will be swept into the currents of someone else's plan. You cannot drift to greatness. It is not something you stumble upon or arrive at by accident. Greatness demands a march. It demands deliberate steps, each one placed with care and courage. Without a plan, your energy disperses like dust caught in the wind. Without a schedule, your time becomes prey to every distraction dressed as urgency. To live fully, you must become deliberate. You must seize the reins of your hours and direct them toward your mission. Time, indifferent and relentless, does not pause for the uncertain. It does not yield to confusion. If you wake without clarity, you will spend your day reacting instead of building. But when you rise with direction, when you know what your hands will create and your mind will conquer, you begin to command the hours instead of being commanded by them. In this, you get to command the hours instead of being commanded by them. Your morning sets the tone. Your plan sets the pace. Think of the blacksmith. He does not swing his hammer wildly, hoping for form. He chooses where to strike, and he does it again and again. It is not brute strength that molds the metal, but the fusion of power and precision. His rhythm is born of purpose. So too with your life. You cannot afford to live by impulse, or impulse will live through you. To be consistent, you must first be intentional. Command your minutes, shape your hours, guide your days, because each one is a piece of your legacy. Now picture this. Evening comes, and rather than collapsing into sleep without reflection, you light a candle and open your journal. You do not scribble a list of chores or loose ambitions. Instead, you plan battles to win. You decide what victories tomorrow will hold, not just the urgent, but the essential, not the noise, but the necessary. You prepare, not react, and because you prepare, you win. By midday, while others scramble to catch up with their scattered intentions, you are already moving with momentum. Your feet do not fumble because your eyes are fixed ahead. This is how warriors of purpose live. With clarity, with commitment, with control. The world is loud, and it will pull at your attention with claws of distraction. It will offer you comfort, confusion, and chaos. But none of those lead to mastery. Mastery begins where planning meets action, when your vision is broken down into steps and your steps are carried out with unwavering consistency. So ask yourself, will you be ruled by the world, or will you set the terms of engagement? Will you rise into each day as a soldier of your own vision, or drift as a servant to everyone else's urgency? Life will not wait for you to figure it out. Time will not pause while you find your motivation. That is your task. That is your discipline. And the reward? A life of direction, a legacy that was built, not borrowed, a story that you authored. Begin tonight. Sit in silence. Mark your next move, and when the sun rises again, meet it with a plan clenched in your fist and a fire behind your purpose. Do not let life dictate the terms. Move first. Always move first. 4. Stop listening to doubt. The most dangerous voice you will ever hear does not shout from the crowd or echo from the world outside. It whispers from within. It knows your name, your insecurities, your deepest hesitations. It disguises itself as reason, but it is fear. It tells you that you're not enough, that your efforts are wasted, that you should wait just a little longer before trying again. It scoffs at your ambitions and claps for your delays. But know this, that voice has never built anything. It has never shaped a future, never finished a race, never written a book, or launched a dream. It is a voice of paralysis, not progress, and it must be silenced. But it will not go away on its own. You cannot argue with doubt and expect to win. You cannot reason with fear and expect it to retreat. There is only one answer: action. Doubt thrives in stillness, in the quiet corners where nothing moves. The longer you wait, the louder it grows, feeding on your hesitation, multiplying with every second you hesitate. The cure is motion. Take one task, just one, and finish it. Let your hands prove your worth where your thoughts try to deny it. Then take another task. Stack small victories like stones and build a wall between you and that inner saboteur. Imagine standing at the base of a towering mountain. The peak disappears into clouds, and from where you stand, the climb looks endless, even absurd. The voice within tells you to turn around, that you're not ready, that someone else would do it better. But you take one step, just one, and then another. You look up, and though the peak remains distant, the base is no longer where you are. You are climbing, you are ascending, and something miraculous begins to happen. The higher you go, the quieter doubt becomes, because doubt cannot breathe at high altitudes. It suffocates in the presence of persistence. This is the battle we all fight, not against the world, but against ourselves. Ask yourself honestly, how many dreams have been buried in the soil of hesitation? How many times have you surrendered, not because you couldn't, but because you listened to a voice that said you shouldn't? How often have you accepted the lie that you were not enough, when in truth you simply hadn't started? You are more capable than you allow yourself to believe. There is strength in you yet to be summoned, endurance yet to be tested, brilliance yet to be revealed. But you will never see it if you keep standing still. Waiting for confidence to arrive is like waiting for the wind to carry you uphill. Confidence is built through action, not before it. So what are you waiting for? Fear will not vanish. The voice will not suddenly go silent. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. It is doing the work anyway. It is rising while your doubts beg you to sleep. It is lifting your head and saying, I will try even when you don't know if you will succeed. Doubt fears action. It cannot survive in motion. With every step you take, every task you complete, you drive it further into silence. You prove, not with thoughts, but with deeds, that you are in control. So choose effort, choose progress, choose to move, because every second you delay is a gift to doubt. But every action you take is a declaration of war against it. And with enough action, doubt loses the battle. Starve it. Starve it with your work. 5. You must finish what you start. Starting is easy. That first spark of inspiration, that flush of excitement when a new idea takes hold, those moments are intoxicating. They make everything seem possible. But finishing, that is sacred. That is where the real transformation happens. The world is littered with unfinished projects, empty intentions, and promises abandoned at the altar of convenience. Half-written books, barely begun workouts, shelved ambitions, all reminders that beginning is common. But those who finish, they are the ones who rise above the noise. Because consistency without closure is like fire without heat. It looks impressive, it might draw attention, but in the end, it accomplishes nothing. It does not warm, it does not cook, it does not forge. To begin without the will to end is to surrender before the test has even begun. It is effort without impact, motion without meaning. So when you begin a task, treat it like a vow, not just a plan, but a personal covenant. Commit not because the road is easy, but because your integrity demands it. See it through, not because it's convenient, but because who you are is tied to how you finish. The man or woman who finishes becomes more than competent. They become reliable. Their word is not just a promise to the world, it becomes a contract with themselves. Every task completed strengthens the foundation of their identity. Every goal reached becomes proof that they can be counted on even by themselves. Imagine building a bridge. You lay the foundation, pour the concrete, raise the beams. The effort is immense, the vision is clear, but just before completion, you walk away. You leave it just short of usable. What purpose does it serve? A bridge unfinished helps no one. It becomes a monument almost. It fails to carry weight, fails to connect. And so too are our own ambitions when we abandon them before the finish line. Ask yourself honestly, how many beginnings have you walked away from? How many great ideas have withered from neglect, not because they were impossible, but because they demanded more than you were willing to give? What if this time you carried it all the way? What if you pushed past the novelty, pushed through the boredom, and stood firm when the path turned steep? There is something powerful in finishing what you start, something unspoken but deeply understood. It is a declaration that you are not ruled by mood or moment, but by resolve. Finish not for recognition, not for applause or praise. Finish for the integrity it builds in you. Finish because your future self is watching. Every goal completed becomes a stone in the road of your destiny. Every closure strengthens the belief that you are someone who sees things through. When you finish, you begin to rewrite your self-image. You move from someone who tries to someone who completes, from intention to execution, from potential to proof. So the question remains, will this be the time? Will this be the project, the goal, the challenge you carry to completion? There will be days when quitting will seem easier, when doubt will invite you to pause and comfort will tempt you to delay. But finish anyway, especially then, because on the other side of that finish line is more than just a completed task. It is a version of you who knows what it means to endure. Make this the time you finish what you start. Let this be your proof. 6. Make discomfort your partner. Comfort whispers lies. It comes dressed in soft promises, telling you that ease is the ultimate reward, that stillness means you have made it. It tempts you with the illusion that if you're not struggling, you're succeeding. But those who carve their names into the bedrock of history, those who build legacies that outlive their breath, they do not court comfort. They walk side by side with discomfort. They rise with it, they sleep beside it. They learn to live with the ache until the very thing that once felt unbearable becomes familiar, even welcome. Familiar, 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 familiar. Wake up, ladder, perhaps millions. Every time you step back from a challenge because it's unpleasant, every time you turn away from the hard path in favor of the easy one, you trade progress for temporary relief. But growth does not live in comfort. A craftsman does not smooth wood into beauty without sweat. The grain resists the blade, and yet the craftsman pushes forward again and again. A scholar does not master the book by glancing at its pages between moments of ease. They wrestle with it in silence, eyes weary, minds stretched. Excellence requires effort, character demands it, and you are no different. You will never sculpt yourself into something remarkable if you flinch at every trial, if you avoid every stretch that stings. The muscle only strengthens through tension. The mind only sharpens under pressure. The soul only expands through struggle. Imagine waking before the world stirs, when the air is still and cold. It bites at your skin, tempts you to retreat, but you do not. You move, you stretch, you train, you write, you study, you labor, not because it feels good, but because you have decided to grow. You know that greatness has no tolerance for those who need comfort to act. Where others retreat, you advance. Where others wait for the mood, you lean into the moment. What they avoid, you seek. Can you endure the ache of repetition, the monotony of practice, the sting of a failed attempt followed by another? If you can, then you are already far closer to victory than most, because discomfort, when embraced, becomes your forge. It is the place where weakness melts away and resilience takes form. The heat of the trial, the friction of the process, this is where transformation begins. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your invitation. It is the gatekeeper of every worthwhile pursuit. Those who fear it will forever circle the perimeter of their potential. But those who face it head-on begin to unlock the parts of themselves they never thought possible. They discover strength not just of body, but of will. Endurance not just of flesh, but of purpose. So ask yourself, what have you been avoiding? What challenge lies untouched, not because it's beyond you, but because it's uncomfortable? What habit have you delayed? What decision have you postponed simply because it makes you uneasy? Whatever it is, seek it, move toward it, let it confront you. And when it does, do not flinch. Stand there, touch it, work with it, master it. Because nothing worth keeping was ever earned in ease. No masterpiece was born of complacency. No legend was written in lukewarm hours. The legacy you dream of is not found in rest, but in resistance. And if you can endure it, if you can learn to love the challenge, then there is no fire that can burn you, only fires that will shape you. 7. Guard your mind like a fortress. Not every idea is worth your time. Not every voice deserves space in your mind. If you do not guard your thoughts, you will be overrun. Fear will march in first, disguised as caution. Then will come complaint, draped in the robes of honesty. Finally, mediocrity will take up residence, calling itself realism. And by the time you notice your mind is no longer yours, it has become a shelter for limitation. You do not rise by accident. You do not grow by leaving the gates wide open to whatever wanders by. The disciplined mind is not a fluke. It is a fortress, built stone by stone, choice by choice, thought by thought. Each complaint you let linger is like a crack in the foundation. Each excuse, no matter how cleverly justified, digs a quiet tunnel beneath your walls. Soon, the structure you once tried to build begins to falter under its own weight. But it doesn't have to. The mind, like any space, responds to what you put in it. Fill it with clarity and you gain focus. Feed it purpose and you find drive. Fill it with fear and you find paralysis. The mind will reflect what it absorbs. It will grow what it is given. And if you let others shape it, you become a product of their fears, their failures, their limits. Picture a fire in the middle of a quiet forest night. It flickers at first, fragile but full of potential. You feed it dry wood, strong and solid, and the fire grows. It crackles, it warms, it sustains. But start tossing in wet leaves, moldy bark, scraps soaked with doubt, and the flame suffocates. It no longer provides light. It no longer offers heat. Your mind is that fire, and your thoughts are the fuel, the quality of your fire. Your focus, your ambition, your belief is entirely dependent on what you feed it. Consider the conversations you entertain, the voices you replay. Are they filled with growth or with gossip? Are they reminding you of what's possible or echoing what can go wrong? What you allow into your mind becomes the atmosphere in which your future is shaped. One negative idea, repeated enough, becomes a belief, and beliefs, once planted, guide your actions. A disciplined mind recognizes this. It builds a filter, a gate, not to avoid reality, but to protect potential, to choose what enters, to choose what remains. It's easy to think you're just being realistic when you let in doubt. It's tempting to believe that complaining is a form of venting, that it helps clear the air. But the disciplined mind knows better. It doesn't ignore struggle, but it refuses to feed it unnecessarily. It doesn't deny obstacles, but it also doesn't build shrines to them. It sees fear, but it does not kneel to it. The disciplined mind stands guard, always. Ask yourself honestly, what thoughts are keeping you cold? What ideas have you allowed to live rent-free in your mind that do nothing but shrink your ambition? Whose voices echo when you feel the pull to do more, to be more, to build more? Are they voices that challenge you to rise, or ones that tempt you to retreat? You have a choice. You can let strangers build the walls of your mind, brick by careless brick. You can let the world pour its noise into your ears until it becomes your truth. Or you can take the hammer and chisel and shape it yourself. You can decide what you believe. You can train your mind like a craftsman trains his hands. Through repetition, through awareness, through refusal to settle for mental clutter, this is your temple. Treat it like one. Because from the mind flows everything. Your habits, your words, your choices, your direction. When the mind is cluttered, progress is slow. When it is focused, you become unstoppable. That is not a metaphor. It is the pattern of all who achieve beyond the norm. They think deliberately. They guard their inner space. They feed their mental fire with intention. The world is loud. It will not stop offering you things to fear, things to chase, things to envy, but you can decide which of those voices makes it past the gate. You can refuse to let distraction live in your head. You can choose ambition over anxiety, purpose over panic. You can feed your mind thoughts that are useful, thoughts that challenge you to act, thoughts that push you to rise. This is your responsibility. No one else will do it for you. No one else will manage your mind, build your beliefs, or choose your focus. The world will offer input, but only you can give permission. Only you can choose what takes root. So begin. Replace complaint with gratitude. Swap fear for focus. Choose to dwell on progress, not obstacles. Be ruthless with what you allow in. Be deliberate with what you keep. Guard your mind like it holds your future, because it does. 8. Work in silence, earn in echoes. Not everything you do must be seen. In a world addicted to display, where every step is shared, liked, and validated by others, silence has become a lost art. But those who build legacies do not waste time performing progress. They channel every ounce of energy into the work itself. The loudest workers are often the least consistent. Noise is easy to make, but noise is not the same as substance. It is not the same as grit or growth or greatness. The truly committed labor in silence. They rise before the world wakes with no one watching. They grind through the late hours with no one cheering. They endure setbacks in solitude, and they press forward without applause. Because consistency does not beg for recognition. It does not knock on doors asking to be noticed. It shows up again and again without needing to be seen. It knows the truth. Rewards come later. Results are born in repetition, in the small, often invisible choices made day after day. So speak less. Prove more. Let your outcomes carry your voice. Let your success be so undeniable that it silences every doubt, every critic, every distraction that once tempted you to explain yourself. Imagine yourself working behind closed doors. The world spins around you, loud and busy, filled with people boasting of their grand plans. They speak of what they will do, of what they hope to become. Their voices are strong, but their actions are scattered. You, on the other hand, keep your head down. You show up. You focus. You repeat. Weeks pass, then months. And while others chase attention, you chase mastery. Then one day, you emerge, not with noise, but with results. Tangible, undeniable proof. While they talked, you toiled. While they dreamed, you delivered. You became what they only described. There is a quiet power in the unseen effort. It builds not only skill, but self-respect. When you work without needing eyes on you, you reclaim control. You no longer perform for others. You stop measuring your progress by applause. You begin to move for the sake of progress alone. And in that place, you find the most dangerous kind of confidence, the kind rooted in evidence, in hours logged, in the honest weight of your own discipline. So ask yourself, who are you working for? Praise or progress? Are you chasing validation or transformation? It matters because the difference defines your path. Praise is fleeting. It disappears as quickly as it arrives, but progress is yours to keep. It moves with you. It compounds over time. You can build a life on it. You can build a future from it. Every time you choose silence over spectacle, you build a deeper connection to your purpose. You remind yourself that the goal is not to be seen working. The goal is to work so well and with such relentless consistency that the results become impossible to ignore. And when that day comes, when the outcomes speak, let your output tell the story. Let the quiet mornings, the unseen nights, and the silent sacrifices become your armor. You are not here to impress the crowd. You are here to build something lasting, something real, something that does not disappear when the spotlight fades. Real growth does not crave constant confirmation. It thrives in discipline. It blossoms in silence. Think of the tree growing beneath the surface before it ever breaks the soil. Think of the mountain carved by wind over centuries, never announcing its transformation. Power does not need to perform. It simply becomes. So too should you. You are not a spectacle. You are a builder, a doer, a master in the making. There will be times when the temptation to speak rises, when you want others to know how hard you're working. That is natural. But resist it. Use that energy to push further, to refine your craft, to deepen your resolve. There will come a moment when the results stand on their own, and in that moment, no explanation will be necessary. So work in silence, build with devotion, protect the sanctity of your grind. Let others talk, let others post and shout and promise. You keep building, keep creating, keep sharpening. Your time will come, and when it does, it will not be because you asked for it. It will be because you earned it. The world may not see the hours you give. It may not notice your struggle, your commitment, your quiet persistence, but you will feel it. And when the work is finally done, the world will feel it too, not through your words, but through your results, through the undeniable weight of what you've built. Let your silence become your edge. Let your output become your anthem. Make yourself impossible to ignore by becoming someone who never needed the noise to begin with. 9. Become a master of one thing first. A scattered mind achieves nothing. It moves quickly but touches nothing deeply. It races from one idea to the next, fueled by bursts of excitement but lacking the patience for depth. You tell yourself you're being productive, that you have many goals, many interests, many ambitions. But if you look closely, you'll see a trail of beginnings with few endings. Castles in the sky, perhaps, but foundations in none. You cannot build a legacy by touching everything and mastering nothing. The man who masters one thing lays claim to many, because focus is not limitation, it is a force multiplier. When your attention is divided, so is your strength. Your energy becomes diluted, your time stretched thin, your results inconsistent. But when you commit fully to one pursuit, when you push aside the distractions that clamor for your focus, something changes. You no longer scatter your energy, you channel it. And in that channeling, you sharpen like steel. Clarity replaces confusion. Purpose replaces noise. Consistency becomes natural because you are no longer battling a dozen competing paths. Imagine this. Day in, day out, you return to a single craft. The repetition does not dull you, it refines you. Every motion becomes more precise. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Each success becomes a stepping stone, not a destination. You begin to see beyond the basics. You uncover layers that only time and attention reveal. This is the road to mastery. It is not built on complexity, but on clarity, on the courage to do one thing exceptionally well, even when others chase novelty. There is a hidden power in choosing one direction and walking it without flinching. It demands more discipline than juggling many. It requires you to say no often and without apology, but the reward is transformation. Because deep work, sustained work, focused work, this is what changes a person. This is what builds skill, reputation, and fulfillment. This is how you become irreplaceable. Ask yourself, what could you become if you stopped splitting your attention? What strength lies dormant because you've never committed long enough to awaken it? We live in a world that praises multitasking and rewards the appearance of movement, but movement without progress is just noise. Depth requires stillness. Excellence requires focus. You don't need to do everything. You just need to become exceptional at one thing. And from that one thing, you gain the foundation to build many. Focus is not the end of your potential, it is the beginning of your mastery. Once you've earned depth in one field, the lessons echo. Discipline transfers. Precision carries over. You learn how to learn. You train your mind to commit. The world does not remember those who dabbled. It remembers those who endured. Those who stayed long enough to see beneath the surface. Those who planted roots instead of chasing the breeze. Let others be pulled in every direction. Let others fill their days with tasks that pass the time. You build. You focus. You master. There is strength in simplicity. Choose your craft. Devote yourself to it. Cut the noise. Sharpen your edge, because the one who becomes irreplaceable in one thing will never be without purpose. 10. Decide once, act forever. Every day spent deciding is a day wasted. The mind that remains in indecision becomes its own prison, trapped in a loop of hesitation and what-ifs. Time slips away, not with dramatic failures, but with quiet pauses, endless reconsideration, and the illusion of preparation. The strongest men do not spend their days reevaluating the same questions. They decide once, and then they reinforce that decision with 1,000 acts of discipline. Their strength does not come from the absence of doubt, but from their refusal to entertain it once the line is drawn. Commitment is not born from a burst of emotion or the swell of inspiration. It is born from a vow to self, a silent declaration that says, this is who I am, this is what I do. And then the work begins. Not glamorous, not always rewarding in the short term, but consistent, reliable. The committed don't wait to feel motivated. They act because they said they would. They show up because their word matters more than their mood. Every choice is an echo of the promise they made. Imagine a ship at sea, its course set toward a distant shore. The wind shifts, waves rise, storms roll in. But the captain does not question the destination at every gust. The crew does not drop anchor every time the current pulls. The ship adjusts. It adapts, but it moves forward because the heading was chosen. And unless that heading proves false or harmful, the course is kept. That is how progress is made. That is how lives are built. Not with scattered intentions, but with unwavering direction. We spend too much time circling our goals, as if clarity will strike only after enough delay. But most of the time, we already know what must be done. We know what standard to hold. We know what habits to break and what disciplines to build. The problem is not lack of knowledge, but lack of resolve. Fear tells us to wait. Doubt tells us to research more. Insecurity whispers that we're not ready. But they are all thieves of momentum, and momentum is what turns decision into destiny. What decision have you delayed? What line have you refused to draw? Maybe it's the choice to get healthy, to write the book, to quit the excuse, to raise your standard. You tell yourself you'll start when the timing is better, when the pressure lifts, when the path is clearer, but the path only becomes clear when you walk it. Decide, then move. Let every step forward be proof. Let your life become the evidence of your commitment, because drifting is easier. Drifting asks nothing. It lets the tide carry you wherever it pleases, with no resistance, no direction. But drifting never ends in purpose. It ends in regret, in the quiet ache of knowing you could have chosen but didn't, that you could have stood firm but stayed soft. To commit is to reclaim your time, to say, this matters. I'm not negotiating anymore. It is to draw a line in the sand and declare that your future starts now, not when it's convenient. And from that moment, every action becomes simpler. Not easier, never easier, but clearer. You stop debating, you start delivering. Will you drift or will you commit? Will you let each day pass without direction, or will you define your course and hold to it? Because once you choose, your life begins. The ship moves. The work takes form, and the man you become is no longer a question. He is an answer.